LSU continues, which really just kind of started on their offseason workout training. Now, even though there's never really an offseason anymore because there's so much going on football related, LSU is in summer camp. They've been in there for about 3 weeks. And there are some guys that I think have started to separate themselves. Now, we talked about last week that guys that we had heard that are having really good summers. This week, we did it a week ago today. We're going to do it a week ago. We did it a week ago on best some really good guys. Let me give you not necessarily guys, but maybe an area that I'm starting to be a little bit more concerned about, because when I do look at this DB room, it's something that, we talked about tongue in cheek, and we all said to ourselves, yeah, it's bad. But C-Ray's back, as would have been a lot of your comments. But we got to fix the D-line. And DB is something that we haven't necessarily got a really good look into, where you and I had a conversation about what's going on there. Now, let me preface this because I agree with it. The other day, the Pete Jenkins video came out. GeauxTigers posted one. I was talking to Mike Tatilier today. I think he had him on his radio show, and we all heard it. He said the D-line doesn't have the personnel. He told Bo Davis it doesn't have the personnel, and that he doesn't believe that they have any corners. Okay, let's talk about that for a minute. Is he wrong? Because we'll get into a Rufino's rants here in just a minute, mainly due to the fact that I think that he might be right. Now, what's going to happen is we're going to have so much excitement for the season. I'm going to push back at DB. You're going to say, oh, man, no, it happens every single year. I don't know what you have out there that can be consistent. Now, do I think that you got talent in that room? Yeah, actually, believe it or not, I actually think that you do have some talent in that room. Some guys that can play a little bit. But the biggest question becomes, are you going to be relying on a couple of freshmen that are having to come out of nowhere to help and be in significant roles? Now, look, man, I know that you have a new defensive staff coming in, 2 new secondaries coaches, but, man, really with the portal today, the way that it is, and you having a head coach that's been here for 3 years, you would think that you wouldn't have to do that unless a guy was ultra talented, like a Derek Stingley. But even when Derek Stingley did it, he was surrounded by guys. Christian Fulton was a senior. Jacoby Stevens was a junior. Jay Ward was going to be in the next year. Who am I thinking about? Oh, Christian Fulton. It was still number 5, though. It wasn't Jay Ward. Kerry Vincent. Kerry Vincent was a senior. So guys that had been there a long time, and then one freshman. Oh, Grant Delpit was in that secondary too. You might not have that luxury. I know that it has been a very sensitive subject when we talk about the DB room, because you feel like that I am always coming down on Corey Raymond. That's not the conversation that I'm trying to have. The conversation that I'm trying to have is are they ready there? Do they have enough talent? Do they have enough experience? And the big question that I keep coming back to after things that I've heard from this summer is, and the wide receiver room is kind of doing a little bit better, if not extremely much better than what is going on at the DB room. Now, marginally, I do think that you as a DB room at corner might not be as good as you once were or you need to be. However, I don't think specifically that you have massive gaps or issues at safety. I think you got experienced guys back there. Look, you can say what you want about Sage Ryan, but he does have experience to help younger guys. You do have Jordan Gilbert back there. I don't know if those two guys are the most talented, but they do have the most experience. I do think Deshaun McBride's going to have to play some. I think he's a true free safety type that can roam all over the place. And I also think that Kylan Jackson, man, somebody that emerged during the spring window, can he be that dude? Guys, you got some talent at safety. I am extremely worried about what you have going on at corner. Now, it's not the first time that you and I have had this conversation, and now you're 3 weeks into the summer, and I continue to hear that has been a little bit of the issue. So it's tough. I mean, you do have a quarterback in Garrett Nussmeier that's been in the system for now going to be 3 years under Brian Kelly. I mean, I get that you have a lot of talent and a lot of experience on that offensive side of the football, and it's going to take guys time. The question becomes, where have you gotten better? Now, I do think that things will be better defensively because I think you're going to send more pressure and get after the quarterback, which is going to help out your corners. I don't think you're going to be passive like Matt House was. It's going to help you. I do think you get better from just a play call, play style, philosophy, want to, aggression, all of that. You get better. Talent-wise, you're not better at corner. Okay? At least you haven't proved it. You had the spring game where you did not have a lot of success, and then you turn right around. You don't get anybody in the portal in the spring window. There were some bodies in there that you could have gone to get, and you didn't. So now you have what you have. There's been a lot of, chit chat about maybe Corey thinks that the room's not talented. So I'm not going to say that they don't have talent in that room because I do think that they do. I think it's just all a lot of young guys. Now, Zy Alexander comes back from injury. Denver Harris leaves. Sage Ryan might not be playing corner. So, too many question marks, man. Way too many question marks on the boundary and at slot for us to sit here and say that it's not an issue. During the spring, Jair Brown was doing very good at the slot. Actually was pretty disruptive during the spring when they would send him on blitzes. Then they moved him. So I know what this video is going to do. I know what this live stream is going to do when we talk about it. Guys, there are things that I'm hearing that the secondary has not gotten to a place where you would think you would, or where you would want it to be. I don't think anybody wants, everybody wants them to be the best corner and safety room in the country. But in a realistic nature, guys, if they were midway through the pack, you could live with it because it would be massive progression from one year to the next. The way that things are going spring-wise and post-spring into summer workouts, from what I hear, it has not been the case. Has not been the case. I don't know if you have a true leader in that corner room. Who are the leaders there? Because you never hear something coming out of that building that, man, like this guy was, he was doing this. He was saying, listen, we're going to do X, Y, and Z to get better. Hadn't happened yet. That's one thing. Got to add what Pete Jenkins, though, did say about LSU's defensive line. He was mainly and only talking about the interior. He wasn't talking about the edge. He even clarified he wasn't talking about the edge. Look, man, it's going to be what it's going to be. You're going to have to see if it progresses at corner and at the interior of your defensive line. Now, you had 3 guys last year that got drafted. Scheme. I don't think Mason Smith was as good as he needed to be. Mekhi Wingo gets hurt. You're just not good at that position at the current moment, per him, and we have talked about it. I do think that you're going to be fine at edge. I think you got a lot of playmakers there. I think that you're decent at edge, linebacker, and safety. I think you got 2 very glaring weaknesses in the interior of your defense and on the boundary. exactly where teams want to attack you. That's where teams want to go and want to attack you, to be explosive and to get after things on the offensive side of the football. So I have not heard anything. You know, there was a lot of talk about Don McKinley looking really good. But I told you what I think about that. We actually talked about that last week. He was one of the players that we discussed that coaches had really been looking at. I'm not gonna give a stamp of approval from this show until we see the kid do it. Ironically, as I say that about corner and I say about safety, or say it about the interior DTs, you know, I know what you're recruiting at both of those positions. I know that, and we've talked about this on our forum. Go over there, ayssnetwork.com/forum. It's a discussion that we had. The discussion was based primarily off of, actually from a high school ranks perspective, people might not think that a lot of these D linemen that they're recruiting are necessarily the upper echelon. A lot of really solid players that he's going after, meaning Bo Davis. You're going after DJ Pickett at corner. You got Jamboree or Antoine that is also committed. You got a chance with this class, and I think you did really good with the last one. But you're going to have to get some bona fide – you're going to have to just get dudes in here, man. Where are the dudes? I know Harold Perkins can be a dude. Where are the other ones? Like when you're playing against Ole Miss and everybody during the week's breaking the game down, be like, hey, bro, have y'all seen Harold Perkins? Like, have y'all seen Greg Penn? Like, this kid Greg Penn's actually taking a massive step forward. Actually, Greg Penn's somebody that has been having chatter around his name. Is Blake Baker going to do it again? It's a big question mark. I think Greg Penn has been somebody that they have really shined in on. If I did have a breakout player, or not breakout player, I'll say it like this. A breakout player nobody's talking about, I would go Greg Penn. I would go Greg Penn. Got to live up to it. It's a lot of faith going into that one. Tons of faith. Conrad says McKinley will play early and often out of need. Grow up soon. Yo, playing out of necessity. Dion Black says, so is Corey Raymond to blame or is it personnel? I mean, look, as much as I've gotten on Corey, I think it's going to be a mixture of both, to be honest with you. I think that you got to judge Corey next season purely based off of mainly due to do the guys from week one get better every single week? Is he developing them? And if he is, okay. But if he isn't, then you might have an issue. Because you don't have a Greedy Williams type talent in that room right now that has proven it to you. Not that they don't have it. Look, I hear BB Causey, the kid from New Orleans, has surprised some people. Michael Turner has surprised some people. But those kids are freshmen. Oh, by the way, PJ Woodland was all the talk in spring camp because he was the only one that can cover anybody. You're going to run a secondary of freshmen out there, and if you do, you're going to lose games that you have no business losing. I mean, it's just what's going to happen. You cannot do that. And you're not going to do that, but you can't do it either. You're going to have to rely on Jair Brown. You're going to have to rely on J.K. Johnson, barring that he stays healthy. You're going to have to rely on Ashton Stamps. You're going to have to rely on, well, God forbid, what does Jawan Johnson come in here and do? What does Javian Toviano do? I mean, guys, if we're being honest, if I looked at you right now and said, do you know for a fact what type of production that you have returning at corner and at DT that makes you feel comfortable about them in that position or at that position, you would say no. And if you do say yes, then you're going to have to take the glasses off. But it comes down to a fact. If you don't have the personnel that you think that you want, you still got to develop guys so that your room gets better. I think you got enough. There's talent in the room. I just don't know if the secondary is going to be like you would have thought by now that there would be more guys starting to take another step forward in development, right? Like, I mean, there comes that fine line of do you have the talent? Do you not have the talent? Why aren't guys developing? And there's that fine line. Which tippy toe are you walking on? Because I know what you're going to say if the DB room doesn't do good. Well, C-Ray hasn't gotten his guys in. Okay, well, are they developing? No. Okay. Well, then we have a bigger issue. Let me finish this with a Rufino's rants, though, because this happens every single year. You know, about this time, every single year, there are all of these things that come out because it's basically just dead season after the College World Series. And people come out with their lists, people come out with their rankings, people come out with this, people come out with that. I have seen on multiple national services, people will say, well, these are the 3 hardest games that LSU has next year. Mainly it has been Florida, Alabama, Ole Miss. I think people are grossly underrating, from an LSU side of things, USC. Massively. Because all I hear from people is, yeah, LSU should win that game. No problem. Okay. Well, let's play a little game called Name That Team. You're replacing a Heisman Trophy winning quarterback. You don't know really what you're going to have at running back. You have some receivers that got drafted. Now, one school did have more talented receivers. Oh, their D-line's bad. They got a new defensive coordinator, a new D-line coach, a new secondaries coach, a new corners coach. Oh, wait. They're both the same. Now, you had better wide receivers that you have to replace, but that's neither here nor there. You do return a better offensive line, so you do have that. But when people are out there saying whatever they want to say about USC, guys, you have a lot of the same question marks that they do.